Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pressing Matters. I'm Scott, and thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your support. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Just hit the subscribe button below and hit the bell, and you'll be sure to get notified of all the new content that's coming up. So today we're going to be taking a look at Classical Reissues 101. This is part 2 of a series. I'll leave the link below for part 1, in which we cover some of the labels A through C, like ATHENA, Analog Productions, Classic Records, and others. I missed a couple in that one, so I'm going to track back and do a few that that deserve your attention. So please forgive me if everything's not in alphabetical order, but these are really great reissue labels and deserve your attention. This was a short-lived label called Boxstar. Boxstar produced this one. It's a reissue of Vivaldi Lute Concertos and Trios, and it was originally on Hungariton. And this is a title that was on the absolute sound list for a long time, and a good choice for a reissue. Really good. I like that one. Classic Records, we discussed a little bit last week. There's so much on Classic Records that I just wanted to go over a few RCA Living Stereos and RCA DECCA Living Stereos that they did. This is, of course, one of the early ones, the Reiner Sound. And this is a TAS Super Disc List title as well. Very highly regarded by everybody. And the Chicago Symphony Orchestra is fantastic on this. A little story, I remember going to a big record sale in New York. One of the classical radio stations was going to CD, and they were dumping all their records. And it was a big announcement, and a lot of people were there. Everything was going to be $1. I got there, and people were carrying out armfuls of records. By the time I got in there, there was not a lot left that I was looking for. But I did get a pamphlet that day announcing Classic Records was going to start their series with RCA Living Stereos with 10 titles, and that was super exciting, and this is one of them. That was one of the first ones. Yeah, I remember that day. That was really something. This is one of the DECCA titles, Kondrashin, the Masquerade Suite and the Comedians. Fun record, lightweight music a little bit, but sonic blockbuster, really good. This was more latent recording. Actually, this might be US. RCA, yeah, I think this is a US issue, not a DECCA issue. This one is Alexander Gibson, Witch's Brew, a collection of spooky classics, and this is a TAS Super Disc List title too. Very famous, very desirable in any incarnation. Has stuff like Night on Bear Mountain, Dance Macabre, Mephisto Waltz, selections from pictures at an exhibition. So it's a fun record. If you're just getting into classical, you'll recognize a lot of the stuff on there, and it's sonically a blockbuster again. This one's a beautiful album. This is called Venice. It's a collection. It's done in a beautiful gatefold with a die-cut cover, replicating the original Living Stereo title. And this one is fantastic too. This was recorded in Covent Garden, Sir George Solti. Okay, so this I included just to make sure we got everybody possible on the RCA Living Stereo label. We don't want to forget Charles Munch. That's his Saint-Saëns Stereo Spectacular, Symphony No. 3. That's also a TAS Super Disc. Many of the classics are. So they veered into another label, towards the end. This is a Columbia reissue they did, Shostakovich, by Leonard Bernstein. This was always a highly regarded title to begin with, and even more so on this pressing. The thing about these Columbia reissues is there was never really any good Columbia reissues before these. Columbia mastering and pressings were abysmal, I would say. Really bad, and not audiophile in the least. However, the recordings themselves were. So, you know, we've been waiting for a good classical reissue series of the Columbia label, and a couple of companies have tried to address this. So, Classic was one of the first. They also did this one. Another audiophile classic, Bruno Walter, Symphony No. 3, Eroica. And they also did this. My favorite of their Bruno Walters is this, Symphony No. 4. It's a gorgeous record, beautiful. I don't think that's been redone since then, so that's a very desirable title. Then they also dipped their toe into Everest. The Everest catalog from the late 50s, audiophile-oriented label. This is Corroboree with that crazy cover. I did a review of this and the EMI particularly version. The EMI version I prefer, but this one is wonderful too. A little bit different take on the music. So yeah, that's their first stab at an Everest title, and it was done from tape. Later on, they did these. Almost at the end of their life, Classic Records' life, they did this Everest series. And these are done from the 35mm magnetic tape film. I'm sorry, magnetic film. A very expensive process that a few of the labels did, and the results are stunning. That's one of the best ones sonically. They also did a couple of Villalobos ones. This one is wonderful as well, from film. And then we come to DCC. DCC is a label that produced a few of these, pressed at RTI and mastered by Steve Hoffman. And this is a fantastic one. I'm not going to try to pronounce the title, but it's also Villalobos by Stokowski. And that's on a number of best-sounding recording lists. This is another one that they did, Billy the Kid, Copland, and Statements for Orchestra. Also, another Copland disc they did was this Gould and Copland disc. I really like this one. Spirituals particularly is fantastic. Sonically impressive. Another label tried some living stereo titles, CISCO Music, and this is one of them. This was not done by Classic or anybody else. Chicago Symphony Orchestra with Reiner. This is another one that they did that was not issued by Classic also as well. Heifetz Piatigorsky, Brahms Concerto. It's kind of nice. This was originally a Soria series release, and they didn't really replicate it, but they included the booklet that was in the original. Later on, I think that label turned into Impex, which is still around, and Impex did several Columbia records. This one was Leonard Bernstein, Shostakovich. This is excellent too. Love those records. One of the labels that has been neglected in the reissue craze is EMI. The bulk of the EMI ASD catalog has not been reissued, and some of the early stuff has, and this was one label that tried to remedy that situation. High Q Records. I don't think they're around anymore. They weren't that well received. There are some good ones among them. This one is one of them. I like this Tchaikovsky ballet music, Swan Lake, Ephraim Kurtz. And this is a companion disc, the Nutcracker, also from the same source. Excuse me. But yeah, the pressings were a little iffy. The mastering was probably from digital, although I'm not certain on that. Oh wow, it got dark here for a second. Excuse the lighting variations. There's a problem with the light today. This is the planets, host the planets, also TAS, super disc. Okay, we're nearing the end now of this segment. This is EMI, and EMI has a sub-label called Testament, and they focus mainly on violinists from the 50s and 60s, early 60s. And they are reissuing some records that would be very expensive to obtain any other way. The original pressings on Columbia, British Columbia, are very, very expensive. And this is one of the monos, Michael Rabin. This is one of their stereos, which is really, it's a beautiful reissue. Leonid Kogan, Beethoven. If you look up this record on the original label, looks like that. You'll find it's a super expensive record, and this is really well done. It's a good way to obtain this record. This is from the SAX series of stereo releases. Wonderful record. Another one they did was this one, probably one of the highest selling, highest cost records in its original incarnation. And again, it's on the original Columbia label. This one was redone by Electric Recording Company with attention to detail in every aspect of it for $600 a retail, I think it was. So this is a bargain comparatively. They also did these. This is from the SAX series as well. Stereophonic recording of Maria Callas recital. Stunning record, really, really good. And one other Callas record they did was a mono, operatic arias. And that's a wonderful one too. So I saved one of my favorite labels also for last. This is Klavier. Klavier did what others have tried to do and produced some some EMI titles. And these EMI titles are really sonic spectaculars. This is Sullivan's Tempest and the Merchant of Venice Suite by Sir Vivian Dunn. It's a really great record. Sonic spectacular. And I saved my favorite for last. My favorite for last is one of the records that got me into classical music. I just love this record. Massenet ballet music. This is a great record for someone that's just going to dip their toe into classical. I'm going to love this record. It's full of wonderful melodies, excellent musicianship. The hall sound is great. It's a City of Birmingham orchestra, and that, you know, the location they used to record is just wonderful, wonderful record. Yeah, so this is This is a top record for me. I would, if anything, I would try to get that record of any of the claviers, but they're all really good. Very, very good. This is another one. I didn't want to repeat it because it's a title we already talked about, but this is also recorded in the same hall, and it's really, really nice alternative to the RCA version. So there you have it. That's another section of Classical 101. Some of the great reissue labels and a few highlights from each. We'll be continuing on with more from Speaker's Corner and others. So stay tuned for part 3 of this. I will let you know when that comes up if you are on the subscription list. So please subscribe, get on the notification list, and you'll be sure to get a notification about that series. And we have some other things coming up. I have the Eagles One Step coming up. I have the Blue Note Classics, the 2 new ones, Out to Lunch and Maiden Voyage, which were new to me. And I have something to say about that. Random Access Memories I picked up because I kept seeing how it was showing up in the top 50 sellers of Acoustic Sounds catalog, and really got great reviews and about the sound, so I picked it up, and I have a nice review coming up about that too. Many other things as well, so stay tuned. Thank you again for tuning in, and have a great day.